Hi, this is Neil Clements, and this is The Real Deal with Neil. Today, we're talking about 2026 business strategies, the real themes for success that I believe that every land investor can use in their business and can take away. So let's get to it. All right, so number one theme. First off, we need to focus on usability and utility of our properties. So in the past, where I have lost a lot of money, and it's still losing money on some pretty poor decisions, is when I didn't focus on the utility and usability of the property, or when I thought that somebody would use it for a certain task and they wouldn't. So for instance, I bought a big tract, almost 100 acres out in East Texas, and I thought, okay, yeah, somebody's going to use this for farming. And I knew it didn't have a water meter. I thought I could get a well. Well, come to find out that in my lapse of due diligence, thinking that everywhere can have a well, it turns out that it can't have a well. And in fact, there is no water. There's no water table below the ground, even up to 1,000 feet. And so with that, I learned in order to focus on utility and usability, we've got to know our end buyer. We've got to know what they're looking for. We've got to know what price they're going to pay. And we need to be making sure that our properties have the utilities that the buyer desires. And in our pre-closing due diligence, we need to make sure that if we're selling to a residential audience, that is buildable. For instance, doing a perk test if you have a septic, doing hydraulic analysis if you've got to have water, slope, legal access, road frontage, electricity, you name it. All of the pre-closing due diligence that is absolutely essential for building. And where I went wrong on that property is I assumed that somebody would buy it who didn't need water. But the reality is it's way too rural, it's way too large, and nobody knows what to do with it. And so that's my big mistake that you can learn from, is that if you don't focus on utility and usability of properties, and you don't know your end buyer like the back of your hand for some of these properties, especially that was a big purchase, it was a $400,000 purchase, you can end up losing a lot of money. The second thing is also knowing what kind of value add strategies you can execute on a property. So for instance, if you're looking at a subdividable property that has some road frontage, maybe some utility access, and you're looking to make it into smaller chunks, well, are you in an area where your buyer actually wants that? So for instance, we did a deal out in West Texas where we went out there and tried to do 1 acre, 5 acre, 10 acre tracts from a 30 acre tract. And we come to find out that in that area, again, being extremely rural, it's kind of the theme here, people didn't want smaller tracts. Like, why would we buy 10 acre tracts for, $150,000, $120,000 when we could buy 30 acres for like $225,000, $250,000? And that was kind of the mindset out there, is that everybody owned big land. Some people own thousands of acres. All the neighbors own 50 to 100 acres. And so the mindset was very rural, which was, let's get the biggest size land possible, and it's not much more expensive. And so again, if I would have known my end buyer better, I wouldn't have made that mistake. And so that's my advice to you. Number one, theme. Focus on utility, usability of the properties, and make sure it caters to what your end buyer actually wants, and make sure your end buyer actually exists and has capital, okay? Number two, fulfill demand, don't create it. Many investors lose money trying to convince a market that a certain type of property is valuable, kind of like I mentioned on the first one, that a certain type of property is valuable, or just because it worked here means it should work there. And I think a lot of times as investors, we kind of take our assumptions and we think we've found the secret gold mine, right, that nobody else is found. But in reality, our biggest risk when we try to go out and create demand is that nobody wants what we've done, right? We go out and buy a property, and just because we think we got a good deal on it, or we got it below market value, none of that matters if we can't resell it, because the reality is that value is what somebody will pay for something, right? It's not what an appraiser says it is, not what a realtor says it is, it's not what comp shows it is. The value is what somebody's willing to pay for it right now. And so how do we fulfill demand and instead of trying to create it? Well, we do market research in areas. Yes, we run comps, we talk to realtors, we talk to other investors, and we look out there and we try to see, does a similar product, similar acreage size, can we find examples where this has sold? And ideally, that's at least 5, 10, if not 15 times within a certain mile radius, depending on how rural or urban you are, is going to tell you, is this in demand, right? Does anybody actually want this? And the best strategy really, and we use this, we call it R&D, which most companies would call, research and development. R&D for us is rip off and duplicate. And in a nice way, that basically just means that we're going to follow what other land investors are doing, the areas that they work, the strategies that they use, and the subdivide principles, whatever niche that they're getting into, whatever they're targeting it to. And we're just going to try to do the exact same thing, right? And if, for instance, if you see that somebody finished a really nice subdivision right next to your property, maybe you do the same thing. If you see that there is a mobile home next to your property and you're in a neighborhood full of mobile homes, you're probably putting a mobile home there. And so the key here is let's not try to reinvent the wheel. Let's not take on ego projects and try to say that, we're the best thing since sliced bread or we discover the secret gold mine. Because the reality is that once you fulfill demand enough, you will find some gaps. Maybe you can go out and create it, but you don't go into a new market, into a new place with a strategy that that works. You don't just try that first. You don't try to create. You try to just fulfill demand. And so that's the second thing I'll tell you, especially in this market that's so up and down and uncertain and feels like it changes every single day, is fulfill demand. Don't try to create it. Number 3, do more with less. In this market, efficiency is one of the ultimate competitive advantages whenever markets get tight. So how do we do more with less? So what we're trying to do, for instance, like I talked about in a previous video, is maybe look at sniping marketing versus shotgun marketing. So how do we analyze less properties? How do we determine our niche? How do we get the properties that are going to say yes to us before we even mail? And how do we just mail those or call those or text those or however you're going to reach out to them? Also, if we look back at our past projects, what are the 20% of projects that contributed to the 80% of our income? The Pareto principle, 20-80 rule, it applies to all areas of life. And that's actually how I got into land investing in the first place, is that we had done house flips for several years, been a realtor for several years. We started doing some land projects, just kind of fell into them really. And the land projects that we started doing became our 20-80. It was the 80% of the income that took 20% of the time with 20% of the effort. And what we did is we reapportioned our business. We still did the house flips, but we took it down from 20, 30 projects a year to a handful. And we replaced it with the land. And that's how we were able to double our income for several years in a row, is because the land was significantly more lucrative. And so when I say do more with less, it's about refining. It's about getting technology systems maybe instead of people. It's about utilizing AI. It's about utilizing different resources that you have available to be more efficient, less costly per se on your back end, and staying in the fight long enough to survive. Because the reality is that a lot of people didn't survive the last few years. As I've talked about in a previous video, 90% of real estate wholesalers left the industry as we've gotten to 2025 compared to what the numbers were in 2020 and 2021. And that's a commission study that Batchleads did. And so if you're still here, I applaud you. And it's probably because you are doing more with less and being more efficient. All right, number 4, do things that others aren't willing to do. If there was a theme of my business, I would say that this is it, because this is where the real deal happens. In the trenches where the other lazy investors won't go. And so just a few examples, like when we subdivide properties, a lot of investors now have come onto the fact that exempt subdivides are not crazy hard. So meaning that if you don't have to do paperwork at the county, you can just split it up on a survey, verify some utilities, and you can sell it off in subdivided parcels. Well, maybe you make more money. Well, what a lot of investors aren't willing to do is actually go the next step, which is platting. And the beauty of platting is that gets you down from maybe a 10 acre, 20 acre lot down to a 1 acre lot, sometimes half acre, 5 acre, etc. And that allows you to get smaller lots. It allows you to get maybe, I don't know, 80,000 per acre on those small lots, 125,000 an acre, versus maybe you could only produce 20 to 30,000 an acre whenever you're looking at bigger lots. And so that's one example of doing things nobody else is willing to do. Second example that we do is placing new mobile homes on land and also renovating used mobile homes when they're on our land and parcels that we buy too. Nobody wants to touch mobile homes. Nobody has the knowledge about them. Nobody knows what qualifies for a loan. Nobody wants to manage general contractors. But the reality is that we can score some great deals, as lucrative as some of the land deals that we do, by placing new manufactured houses and also by renovating used ones. And there's a future video to come on that I think you really enjoy. And then third, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but we've got to be able to talk to people on the phone. We have to have sales skills. We have to follow up in ways that nobody else follows up over time. And we just have to stand out. We have to be there when somebody's ready to transact. And so that's one of the most interesting things that I think we can get through our heads, is that it's not about, let's do a deal now, let's do a deal now, let's do a deal now, which yes, benefits us in a big way. But a lot of times the people that we talk to just aren't ready to do a deal yet. It's not that they maybe hate our price. It's not that they hate us. They're just not ready to sell to us yet. And so it's our job to be able to correspond with them over multiple touches, over multiple months, years, and to be able to stay in touch with them until they are ready to sell, to where we are the person that they come back to. And so do things others aren't willing to do. So guys, in conclusion, thank you so much for tuning in. And I just really think in 2026, the market is going to flush out the hobbyists. Those who don't have a business, those who aren't being intentional with their business. And by focusing on the utility of the properties, fulfilling existing demand, and by doing the hard work that others truly are avoiding, you're not only flipping land, you're flipping your future, and you're creating an indestructible wealth machine and one of the best real estate investing opportunities that I've seen in the past decade. And so I'd say go out there, take advantage of the market while it is in this position, be wise, don't overextend yourself, and you'll have a killer business. Go get them.